Thank you very much, Madam Presiding Officer. Let me try to see if I can wake everybody back up, because it seemed I was hearing some snoring on the other side, and I couldn't quite identify who was asleep. So, well, I'm a teacher, and I believe that when you're presenting, if you're not encapsulating your audience, they will inevitably get bored and fall asleep. Madam Presiding Officer, let me start by thanking the Chief Secretary and my colleagues for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this executive and to also contribute to this budget presentation, because it is a very important exercise. And I believe that most of Tobago is listening to us. So that when this exercise began this morning and the minority leader was talking, I had the fortunate privilege of being at my son's graduation ceremony. But recognizing the importance of this process, I felt that I needed to listen in on what was happening. And I don't know why I bothered to waste that time, because true to form, the same old rhetoric. Somebody named John who tell you something, and some woman who was unfairly dismissed in CPEP again.
Members.
And the same.
Members, please be guided by Standing Order 44. Allow Councilor Kerr to make his presentation uninterrupted, please. Thank you.
What is amazing, is that when they are talking, nobody do interrupt. Well, at least I don't. I can talk for me. But as soon as other people start to talk, they had to jump up. And I listened to a lot of the language that was used and who dishonest and whatever. And nobody on the other side didn't say in parliamentary language. Mr. Tate say a lie and you jump up. But that's how we just go. Right. So enough about that. And because let me utilize my time wisely. Right? And what I recognized was two things happened this morning. A political statement was made, and then it was followed up by a manifesto. Right? That is what happened. So that you come into the House under the guise of coming here to debate about the people's business of Tobago, but when you are in fact coming here to score cheap political points. I sat and I listened to the minority, and I asked myself, I said, it's a good thing I'm not there, because I don't know if I could have made it through all that long hours of nothingness, nothing substantial. And again, this continued deception, this continued loyalty, not to the people of Tobago, but to a political party. And you know, I am hoping that by the grace of God, at some time, maybe in the next 50 years, because it's not going to be now, that the shoes will be on the other foot. When my former principal, Mr. Orville London, was chief secretary, and a different party was in power in Trinidad, and all of a sudden, everything that we are saying now was relevant then. But all of a sudden now, it's not relevant. And all of a sudden now, Tobago is getting enough. So I want to ask the minority a question. Are you satisfied with the budgetary allocations to Tobago? Because you dance around the question and you talk about who and spending what and what not happening and whatever. And you know, the dishonesty is what is bothering me. Because minority A and minority B. Well, I will talk about minority B shortly, because it touched my soul today. Because you see Tobago near and close to my heart. Near and close to my heart. And the disingenuous behavior to suggest about 7 billion and what you did with it. Guess what we did with it? We paid Tobagonians. Because most of that was spent on recurrent expenditure, and you all know that. You come into the House and you behave as though all the things that have been said, that you are not aware of it. And even the 300 million that was allocated 2 years ago for development, the lion's share of that was used to pay salaries in European CPEP. So don't come to this house and talk about how much billion and what we do with it and how each Tobagonian could get $1 million. Go to your friends across the pond and tell them to release the financial stranglehold on the people of Tobago. That is what you need to do. I have sat and I've listened to a lot of commentators in the space about the budget. And I want to say this. Many of them come under the guise of being impartial. But many of them are minions of this government. Yes. When you listen to the rhetoric of some of these people, it is the same story that is being perpetuated by them. Listen to Minority B. What is the difference between what Minority B is saying and the PNM is saying? No difference. Imagine, what is the word he said? The Minority B or Representative for Roxwagal has the unmitigated gall to come into this house and say that Tobago should not get anything more. Well, I, as my Chief Secretary, will say that anybody who comes into this house and is saying to the people of Tobago that they must continue to remain as second-class citizens are traitors to Tobago. Let them hear me say that. I say that. Because if you come into this house, regardless of your political affiliation, your first and your loyalty should be to the people of Tobago, about lifting the standard of living of the people of Tobago. Any child who is born in Tobago must be able to self-actualize as any child that is born anywhere else in the country. And this notion that you are saying that Tobago only generates $200 and something million and continue to perpetuate these misguided, I don't know if it is that we don't know better, and try to say that we are not contributing to the national purse, so we are burdened. Why it is that Tobagonians who really care about Tobago will come to this house and try to let Tobagonians feel that they are less than. But I can say to you that I am one proud Tobagonian, and I'm not less than anybody who lives in Trinidad. And therefore, the resources of Trinidad and Tobago is for Trinidad and Tobago. And therefore, Tobago must enjoy its fair share of the resources of Trinidad and Tobago. Imagine in 2024, right? Tobago still does not have an indoor facility in 2024. How many have in Trinidad? Right? And these continued injustices against the people of Tobago, and we have people who are coming here and are more or less saying that they agree with these injustices by the way they articulate themselves. They don't come out plain and say it, you know, but they continue to push this narrative. If you listen to them, that we are getting enough. But when you look at what is being given for the development of Tobago, let us be real people. We are saying that we want to push tourism on the island. But we are not willing to invest in the infrastructure on the island. Because certainly, what is being allocated to Tobago cannot and will not develop this island at the pace that we need to develop this island at. The reality is that they are more about deception than about trying to work with the THA to improve what is happening in Tobago. And I listened carefully, and you know what occurred to me while I was listening there? This is a deliberate strategy by the PNM. And let me tell you what they're doing. They are deliberately stymieing the development of Tobago, and then come to us and say that we promised to do certain things and we did not do it. But how can we do it if we do not have the resources to do it? How are we going to be able to do it? Yes. Right? And every single project that is done in Tobago, we have to do it under pressure. Secretary Pollard spoke about the loan that we were supposed to get from IDB to build houses in Riceland. That was in collaboration with central government. And central government deliberately did not pass the documents to the IDB. So we have Tobagonians, 54 Tobagonians who are waiting on houses for almost 2 years or 2 years and something. And central government did not do its part. And that is the pattern of behavior that we are seeing. And that is the reason why we are saying that we want our autonomy. Because we want to be able to determine the pathway for the development of Tobago. Because one of the things that we have seen is that politics trumps development in terms of what we have been experiencing with the people on the other side. I'm hearing so much about the concern. You know, they love Tobago, and Tobago is under so much pressure and whatever. But I always say, it's not what you say, it's what you do. Sure. And it's about your actions. And if you want to demonstrate that you really care about Tobago, then you are going to behave in a different way. So that I don't want to spend my whole time talking about that, but I want to say one thing. The minority councillor was corrected by the Secretary for Tourism because she did, in fact, talk about data from 2019. And this is a continued way in which they operate. They get so accustomed to bending the truth that even in the face of evidence, they still continue to try to bend the truth. And I want to say to Tobago, you don't have to take what I say. The technology is available. You can rewind to when the Secretary of Tourism was making a presentation. And you will hear very clearly in her presentation, she referenced data from 2019 and compared it to now. So I don't understand if it is that the minority council was asleep at the time, if they weren't paying attention, or if they are so concerned with peddling the narrative that regardless of whatever is said, they continue to try to disregard the truth. It is really very, very amazing. Let me just say one more thing, right? The Tobago Carnival was mentioned, and I realize it's a sore point for the people on the other side because it has become a success. And you know what? I have some good friends who are paying, because I'm a fellow, I could deal with anybody. And they usually whisper to me in my ears. They don't come out in public and say, but they just really admit to a lot of these things, right? And they are already planning for October Carnival to come back. They were here for last Carnival, they enjoyed it, and they're planning for October Carnival to come back, right? And many persons have already booked for October Carnival in Tobago. So I don't understand, and the information is there. The success of last Carnival, the Chamber spoke about it, and these people still fighting on the Carnival. Join with us. Tell us how we can enhance the thing. But you all are so busy trying to play politics, you don't care about Tobago. So it doesn't matter how much persons in Tobago are benefiting from the Carnival. You all want to peddle a narrative that we kill February Carnival. But the reality is that it does not make sense to try to rival Trinidad for Carnival, because persons from Trinidad are not going to leave Trinidad and come to Tobago for Carnival for February.
Councillor Kerr, please have a seat. I'm going to caution all members of this House to allow members when they are presenting to present it without any interruptions as per Standing Order 44. Councillor Kerr, you may continue.
They say the truth does offend. And when they're exposing people, it does hurt. But the reality is, as I said, this is about Tobago. And I hope that at some point in time, that the minority could reach where we reach and where we are working for the people of Tobago. And I would be the first to admit that everything wasn't perfect and everything isn't perfect. But this way that the minority continues to say, well, you say you're going to fix it. So you mash it up. And you turn your back and walk away, and we say we're going to fix it, and you find me fixing it fast enough, or you find me fixing it the way you want to fix it. So many grand ideas coming out from the minority now, you're wondering where the ideas were before. You did nothing. Nothing you all did. I cannot identify a single thing I live in Dalafort that you would have done in Dalafort for the last 21 years. You wanted, and I want to give you all some advice. I'm hearing that you all are referring to things that you did. Take this advice. In going forward, try to talk to the people about Tobago, about things that you think you could do if you get back in. Don't talk about what you did in the past. You see the past? Don't talk about the past. That ain't so good. Your track record ain't good. Right? Don't talk about that. Don't talk about what you used to do and don't go back there. Don't do that. Don't do that at all. Take my advice. Because really and truly, nothing was happening in Tobago. Right? So don't reference that at all. But let me try to get specific to the division because it's kind of late and I don't want to stay too long. Right? So that the division of settlements, my new division, and I heard the minority talking about the fact that the chief secretary would have shifted us around or whatever. That is not all the business. You're talking about business, that's not all the business. The kind of team that we have what we call, what is called in cricket? All-rounders. Yeah, you're talking about tourism, I know the kind of talking about, we have all-rounders. We could bat and bowl anywhere we go. So here what? Notwithstanding that I might be in settlements, I heard the minority talk about education. You talk about education? Also should shame to talk about education. When we inherited the ECC sector, no contract, we regularized all the ECC teachers and fixed the sector. All you come about talk about education. Don't talk about this teacher center that they had in Hope. Grand opening, I spoke at that when I was Tobago officer. What happened after they opened it? Not one thing. But you're talking about teacher center closed. Actually, teacher in Tobago, if they ever utilized that. And what was there for them to utilize? That was just a gimmick, a show, puppy show to say open something. But you're coming here to refer to that now to talk about how teacher center was closed and whatever. Come on, get serious now, man. Get serious. Right? So that we are about service to the people of Tobago. Right? And let me pause at this juncture to commend Assistant Secretary George, because Assistant Secretary George would have done, a tremendous job. Tremendous job. When I drive up to Speyside and Charlottesville now, I feel so proud to see something that I thought that I would have never seen in my lifetime, being someone who lives on that end of the island. Because for donkey years, as my Chief Secretary does say, if you were driving up in that area and your tire puncture, you remain at it. You were not stopping to change no tire because you could not even see your hand palm. And now, there are lights from Kings Bay to Speyside and from Speyside into Charlottesville. Yes. Right? Secretary Pantin spoke about the other numerous communities in and around Scarborough, French Fort and all these places. I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't even know I was going into the waterfall one night in Roxborough and I realized that light. I said, what? I said, George, are you walking? I didn't even know that. I think the part of the problem is that we do not market what we do. I think we just continue to work. We work for the people, and we don't say much about it, right? I was like, what? I was surprised, right? And my former principal, Mr. London, used to say performance beat old talk, right? That was it. I could borrow that from the penny. Performance beat old talk, because at the end of the day, right, a lot of what is being exposed by the minority, inaccurate, trying to sensationalize and talk about Tobago and Hooger Fire and all kind of nonsense. But the reality is that you all cannot compare because more has been done in every single division in the 2 years. Secretary Hackett inherited a bill of millions of dollars of arrears to teachers for increments and gratuities. Over 25 million was paid. Right, well, you see, 30 now was paid to Tobago teachers who you claim that you so care about and wasn't paid. Right? So when I hear the minority coming out and talk about how them so care about Tobago and bread and butter issues, I don't be shocked because you did not demonstrate that. And the reality is, right? I want to get back to my division, but the reality is, in every single division, there is so much left undone, so much fixing to do. I sat the other day and I said, you know, if we had inherited a THA with things more or less okay, I don't know what was going to happen now. We are going to meet the moon and the stars. Because we have spent so much time fixing things that were not being done. Most of the people who come to you now tell you that I had this problem 10 years now, 15 years now, and now you are at pains to try to figure out how you are going to treat with so many issues that have not been treated with for so many years. And it is difficult because you feel the pain of people and you're telling them, well, you know, I will try my best. But the reality is, Secretary James could tell you how many times I've called him about drains and so nothing was being done in Tobago. So I am so flabbergasted to hear people referencing what used to happen in Tobago. Don't do that. Talk about what we made some mistakes, and if we get back, we're going to do like what TPP doing. Right? We're going to do like what TPP doing. We're going to work for you. Because we weren't doing anything for you all, we got cocky. That's what you need to do. But to reference what was happening before, really and truly, that's not a good move. And you realize they can't take jammings, eh? Because when you see them getting jammings, they'll get up and leave. Right? Yeah, when they get a little jammings, they'll get up and leave. But that is all right. They could go out and listen to it on their phone. Or they could play it back later. Right? But the reality is, 113 street lights were installed from Kings Bay to Campbellton in Charlottesville, within those stretches there. More than, I am sure, I was trying to get the statistics on how many they did, you know, but I couldn't get it in time. Because I'm sure it might have been about 10 or 20 for the 20 years that they do. Because that is their track record. That is their track record, right? And we have earmarked 516 to be installed already approved and will be installed in communities of Glenmorgan, Scarborough, Canaan, Wim, Annosville, and Mount St. George. And no Assistant Secretary would like to hear that, right? Those are already approved to be installed. I took a cursory glance at the expenditure, because they like to say we don't like to compare. I wish she was here because she could come and say and compare. For 2017, 2018, right, and I looked at the expenditure for rural electrification. It was $254,253.13, right? That was 2017, 2018. 2018, 2019, $201,013.30. I don't want to bore you all with all the other days, all the other years, right? You know how much we would have spent so far in 1 year? $1,032,102.34. And that is what we are talking about. We are about doing more for the people of Tobago. Because at the end of the day, right, about 90 families were impacted by this electrification. And that is what it is about, improving the quality of lives of Tobagonians. So when we hear about budget and you know, they try to give the impression that even the 6 scheduled items they spend in Tobago, so you can't just look at what they give you and all the chalalu. And I had to tell my Chief Secretary that when you're fixing the 6 scheduled items in Tobago, let the public know, because we do that as well. Yes. But because we are concerned about the livelihood and the people of Tobago, we simply have no choice but to do these things. But the reality is that they come here and they try to give the impression that the money is not being spent the way it's supposed to be spent and all of that. And I wonder, the thing about it though, I think what we need to advise Tobagonians to do is to fact check the statements. Yes. Because no, I can't say lie, you say something. They bend the truth. Constantly, and they constantly have the same narrative all the time, right? Trying to let Tobagonians feel that they are second-class citizens. I listen to Secretary James because I like to listen attentive, and I like to learn a lot. And I think that we need to really educate our young people, because a lot of persons in Tobago believe that Tobago has no resources. Sure. Yes. it is something that they like to let Tobagonians feel that we are less than and that we have been given handouts. So shut your mouth. Shh. We're giving you a little thing, take it and cool it. Right? When the reality is that our resources are being channeled away. And when you look by comparison what is being spent on the other island, and when you look at where development is on the other island as compared to Tobago, then you are seeing a clear bias, a clear motive to keep Tobago in a particular place. As Tobagonians, we have to lift ourselves out of the gutter. And I'm saying to Tobago tonight, it does not matter who you support. It does not matter who you support. I know everybody will not support one party. But what I want Tobagonians to do is to do an introspection and ask yourself, if in 2024, how we are being treated here in Tobago, if that is what you want for yourself. And I think what struck me as well was when the question was asked about your children and grandchildren. I kind of won't know why you don't want much. But about your children and grandchildren, will your children and grandchildren have to go through the same struggle that we are going through? I went to college in 1995. And we had to pick up and go to Trinidad to study. And you know the reality is, our Trinidad counterparts could never understand what that is like. Because they were at home. We had to pack up and go and endure all the hardships of not being in our comfortable space. So that therefore the Tobago condition can only be understood by someone who lives in Tobago and experiences what we experience. The disappointing thing, however, is that those who are supposed to represent us have failed miserably. The argument that we are being treated better. We are not being treated better, you know. But we are willing to fight for Tobago. And whenever things are not going the way it's supposed to go, we are going to expose them. As opposed to them before who was saying, what Ovilona was saying, what? He's not uncomfortable with the budget. We will not say that. We will call it out for what it is. And that is the difference. I remember that all the destruction that took place in Tobago, and I suspect that is why the rent and lease was so high, because of having to hire equipment to treat with all those landslides and whatever. That we ain't get a cent from Trinidad, and you had the unmitigated goal to come in here and talk about how rent and lease went up.
Member?
So how are we going to
Member?
pay for the tractors and the
Member?
and so on?
I understand you're into the presentation, but you only have 2 minutes left.
All right. Right. So I suspect Secretary James, even not being intimately involved in what happens at the division, I know that that will not, if you see an expenditure that is abnormal, it will usually say to you, there is something that would have happened to create that. So when I talk back, I said, but we had some really bad weather where we had to call out all sorts of equipment. I remember being in Argyle and whatever, flooding, landslides. We had to pay for that. But today you're trying to give the impression that something untoward is happening in works and somebody here is being corrupt. I don't even want to talk about corruption. Because we all know what was happening on a large scale before. Right? But they have the unmitigated goal to come and talk about how, what went up and what didn't go up and whatever. Let me just quickly say, because I want to talk about this, the bus shelters at Botanics, Market Square and Shore Park, the one that was demolished recently by accident. We want to treat those issues as emergency issues because we recognize that a large number of persons utilize those bus sheds, and where they are, the reality is that there isn't any shelter for those persons. So we have done a site visit, and we are going to be treating with them as emergency. And we plan to partner with with Works and with tourism in terms of getting that done. Tourism is going to do a nice branding and so on for us, and Works is going to assist us where possible with URP. Right? Those that are at the secondary schools on the highway, Bishops, We start with Bishops and Signal Hill because we recognize that those are inadequate. When rain falls, it's really difficult for the children and so on. So we plan to treat with those 4 first, and we're going to go in a phase basis to treat with the others, because the one at Bacolet and all of the one at
Member.
Yeah. All of those, all of them, all of the bushes really need to be fixed. But we have to.
Honorable member. Your time has elapsed.
Madam Presiding Officer, I rise to request an additional speaking time for Councilor Kerr of 10 minutes.
Members, the question is that 10 minutes of additional speaking time be given to the member. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? The ayes have it. Member, you may continue.
Well, to be honest, I didn't plan to take all the time, but, when I was being harangued by the minority councillor, that has get you a little hot, so. Right. So we plan to treat with those, and in keeping with the greatest little island on the planet theme, we are going to try our best to make them as modern as possible. The intention is to partner with corporate Tobago, what is it, corporate Tobago, and we want to provide like Wi-Fi and all of that, so that those children who may not have credit on their phone, they will be able to access Wi-Fi. So if there's need for them to contact their parents and so on, that can be done right at the bus shed. So the target really is for those 2 at Bishops and those 2 at Signal Hill first. And we're going to look at the others and try our best to see how quickly we can do the others. But as usual, the issue really is resources. Because we would have liked to be able to do all of them, because the reality is that all of them need to be refurbished. But we are going to cut and contrive, as they say, and do as best as we can with whatever we get in. But the reality is, as much as we're going to do as best as we can, we are going to make a lot of noise for what we want. Yes. Because we're not going to sit down and just accept it and say, this is how it is. I think Tobago, we need to understand that at some point in time, right? Because one of the things I realize is this. Whenever you try to make representation, they say you're fighting with central government. You ever hear anything so? So you not getting what you want, you ask nice, you try to be diplomatic, and if you only raise your voice a little bit, they say you're fighting. But the reality is that in order to get certain things, you have to go through a little struggle. And if it is that is what we have to go through, then we are going to do it. We have a few projects that we have earmarked to partner with tourism, right? The project at Highland Trace North Side, waterfall, that comes in at an estimated cost of about $3,100,000. Lower Door, we plan to do pavements, jetties, slipways, and boardwalk, in addition to restrooms and changing rooms to build out that tourism product at Lower Door, and it is organized in phases. So the first phase should be about $435,000. Phase 2 should be $3,675,000, and phase 2 is $3,675,000, and phase 3 will be $5,577,000. Because we are serious about improving and promoting tourism on the island. Additionally to that, we want to do gazebo, toilets, and installation of essential amenities, facilities for the community tourism and domestic recreation. Right? This is at Speyside Lookout. I don't know how many of you would have visited Speyside Lookout, but there isn't any amenities there. We plan to improve Speyside Lookout as well. All of these are geared towards enhancing the tourism product and also lifting up the rural areas and so on, and enhancing the rural areas, right? Colleagues, I want to basically end at that point, but I want to say to Tobago that when I listen to persons on the other side, I get very concerned, because if it is that persons on the other side really and truly believe that in 2024, 2025, we still should be beginning Trinidad and hoping that our Prime Minister, who is a Trinidadian who was born in Tobago, feels pity on us and for some reason give us more. But I think the challenge is that they are afraid of us. Because if they give us resources, they know what is going to happen. But if they are convinced that we mismanage money, then give us the money. Right? And then expose us for mismanaging it. I want to challenge them and say, give us more money for development and everything else that we are asking for. And then you can point out at the end of the fiscal that you gave us what we wanted and we weren't able to manage it. That is the challenge I want to leave with the minority. Thank you very much for giving me the privilege of contributing to the debate.